We're working with one company that could triple their revenue. They're a $25 million business. They could triple their revenue uh, without selling another new logo. And yet before we got there, all of the go-to-market resources were focused on new logo.
It's crazy to me how much marketing stops when the lead becomes a customer. I have been told in previous companies, like running different advertising campaigns, well, exclude customers from that. Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan with you as usual, and we have our special guest, I suppose, regular attendee,
I was going to
Josh.
say, you're going to have to stop saying that. Like, I'm here a little too much.
I think it's special because you're here in the studio.
I love being here.
Yeah, it's really great to actually sit down in person and record these sometimes. Like, you can only enjoy it so much over so many, live sessions, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, good to have you in the studio with us.
Great to be here.
This is a bit of an interesting episode, and I think we are also guilty of this a little bit on the podcast, which is obsessing over net new logo acquisition in marketing, in go-to-market in general. And there is so much more revenue opportunity for businesses outside of just net new logos. When we think of expansion, retention, customer advocacy, these are all areas that your go-to-market function can absolutely play a part in and have so much growth potential for the business. And yeah, in this episode, Josh and I are going to unpack the reasons why it's so important to not just focus on net new logos, which most teams do exclusively, and actually focus on everything else available to you in terms of expansion and retention. Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Nobody likes a spoiler, unless it's your customers telling you exactly what they need. But too bad most businesses miss out on these signals. The hints dropped in emails, the messages hidden in call logs and chats, all of it's just trapped in unstructured data. But with HubSpot, you get all of this data in one place. Their customer platform brings together the insights you need to grow your business. And spoiler alert, the more you know, the more you grow. Visit HubSpot.com today to find out more.
Yeah, I think it's not one or the other, but
yeah,
particularly in organizations that are, in our target market, who are mid-market B2B tech-enabled services firms.
Mm-hmm.
They're in life sciences, they're in fintechs, they're in supply chain tech, security, those kinds of companies who are selling complex solutions to medium-sized businesses and above. Like if you're selling one app, your entire business is one app to one user or a very, very small SMB, this episode's probably not for you. But for the average company that we talk to, PE backed, that is that has multiple products and they have multiple constituencies inside their target market or their target customer, it's shocking how many marketing teams have zero access to enabling optimized wallet share. And that's what we're going to talk about today, I think, is how do we change the narrative inside the organization to recognize the importance of optimizing revenue, not by increasing new logos, but by optimizing your wallet share.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the first question to ask and answer is why? Why is this such a big problem for businesses right now? Why are marketing teams, go-to-market functions just defaulted to acquisition of new logos?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. I can't tell you how many companies I go to who I hear that, the marketing team tells me, yeah, we set the table, we fill the top of the funnel, but as soon as sales gets an opportunity, we're told to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not even allowed to talk to the customer.
Yeah.
We can't send an email. We can't connect to them on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. We can't do anything. And then they become a customer, or they don't. Right? If they don't, maybe we can talk to them again.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do, then they become a customer. They go into customer onboarding. Well, don't talk to them. Like it is shocking but it's so consistent.
Yeah.
Like
It's
so many,
true.
and part of that is because when the rest of the organization looks at what marketing's doing, they think all marketing's doing is sending high level value prop messages, commercials, if you will. Good marketing organizations shouldn't be sending commercials. They should be understanding every single stage of the customer journey and what kind of information is most useful to those customers at which point in time, and the best way to surface that information to them.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop. It certainly doesn't stop in the buying process, right? If I have salespeople engaged with a customer, I absolutely want the right information being presented consistently
Yeah.
and in the right way. And salespeople are usually the least likely to do that effectively because it's one-offs and, the number of, well, that goes into a side tangent. We're not going to go there. But then as they become a customer too, like you get, you get really nicely polished materials, brand on, on brand, great organization, all the way through the sales process. They become a customer, and the first thing they get is this
Oh,
black and
yeah.
white
Yeah.
deck
Yeah.
from customer success that says, "Here's what it means to become a customer."
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
It feels like two separate companies, and it's dull and drab and boring, and that's not it's not a universal indictment, but we can do so much better
Yeah.
if we can just coordinate, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a couple of reasons as to, why marketing teams default. I think one actually stems from measurement
Yep.
itself, because there's no excuse to not measure net new leads, even if you can't measure net new logos all the way through to, closed won
You
pipeline.
mean from an attribution
From an
standpoint?
attribution standpoint, you can measure the amount of new logo leads, at
Yeah.
least, that you have.
Yep.
And there's no excuse, really easy with the right software. It's a lot harder if you don't have everything connected. And we spoke about this in the last episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is having a connection between what you're doing in marketing all the way through to revenue. If you don't have that, even if you do have that, actually, it can be hard to measure marketing's impact on expansion. It's not as straightforward. It's not as direct as the attribution to a new logo.
Well, part of that is because a lot of companies, I would say most, at least most that we end up talking to, don't know what their total wallet share is for each customer. So let's define a couple of terms real quick. NRR and GRR, net revenue retention, gross
Yep.
revenue retention, right? Net revenue retention is, I had X amount of revenue last year. I have Y amount of revenue from the same customers this year, including any upsells and cross sells and
Yeah.
things like that. So it's total that I've been able to achieve from the same set of customers, no new logos. That's net. Gross is I had X last year, and without counting upsells and cross sells, just the revenue I had last year, how much did I hold on to, right? And so top performing companies in the B2B tech space are typically trying to hit 110 to 115% net retention. So that means that they've held on to a large portion of, like, the very, very large portion of what they had, and they've been able to cross-sell,
Yep.
upsell 10, 15%, maybe up to 20%. And anything beyond that is wonderful. And from a growth standpoint, 98% and above, 99% and above, depending on the type of business and the type of customer relationship, is what we're after. Once it starts getting down into the low 90s, or heaven forbid the 80s, you've got a very significant leaky bucket
Yeah.
that is happening. But okay, so if we understand those two terms, and that's how the board is going to think of it. That's how the investor base is going to think about it. When we think about a particular customer, do we know for that? Let's call it. Let's just pick a mid-market enterprise, right? So maybe they're $1 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know enough about how they're organized to know all of the different parts of that business that could use our products or services, how much they could use it, like what would be the rough revenue opportunity in that across each product or service that we offer, so that we can see as it rolls up that entire enterprise,
Yeah.
how much. The number of companies that have done a good job of modeling that, so that before they, like, usually somebody will just say, okay, well, I got this account and I closed this business, and then they go about their way, and now I've got an upsell opportunity, but they never say what could be.
Mm.
If you don't measure your opportunity in detail and then be able to roll that up to understand how much of my potential wallet share or how much of the wallet share do I have of the potential of across my account base,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to unpack wallet share a little bit more, then, I think it'd be interesting to hear what the process is to define that in more detail. So, sales closer, customer, it's handed off to customer success. Is that the point you then ultimately come to, like, an account strategy type level, where you're mapping out, okay, here's where our product fits in right now, here's where it could fit in the entire organization. So then how do you get to that percentage to actually calculate wallet share, and from there, like, actually create a plan to go away and grow it?
There's lots of answers to that, in terms of when you start thinking about that. In organizations that are more ABM focused, right? They have a smaller TAM, maybe a quite small TAM, in terms of numbers of potential customers.
Mm-hmm.
It's that much more important. Like, the fewer customers you could potentially have, if you only sell to 1,000 customers on the planet, like that's what you do, and I've seen lots of organizations like that, then you should be doing this kind of strategic account planning before, before you even talk to anybody,
Yeah.
right? You need to
Yeah.
map out the entire organization. It becomes that much more important to know everything about that organization, how it's organized, what's centralized, what's decentralized, how, if they're highly acquisitive, if they're, multinational, and they run each region separately,
Yeah.
or do they bring it all back to the parent? There's all those. Sorry, there's all those kinds of. I talk with my hands. I can't help it.
So how do
So
you find that out?
how do you find that out? Through lots of conversations with the prospect. I mean, you can do a lot through research, right?
Yep.
And marketing can be involved in that. We have lots of tools that
That's
are
where my
available
mind
to
was
us
going. Yeah.
nowadays, and so there's discovery products that, Clay and
Yeah.
all of the
Sales intelligence tools, I think they
yeah,
call it. Like, that's
yeah,
what they're kind of
that big
bucketed under.
right.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't have a CRM that's designed to model that well,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, right? Like, if you just try to take that and push it into an off-the-shelf implementation of Salesforce or HubSpot or something like that, it's not going to be an effective way to really understand that enterprise. To be able to understand that enterprise, you've got to be able to look at in the case we're talking about, account level, and then buying units. Like, how do they buy, Is it business units? Is a business unit a buying unit? Or are these three business units all run by a central procurement organization that's one buying unit? And then they have this subsidiary in Japan that's a separate buying
Yeah.
unit. And then they have, right. And so it's, it is a lot of discovery, and it involves your BDR team, it involves your sales team, involves your marketing team. Um, but if you don't have a central place to capture that and know what you're trying to capture, if you're not intentional about it, then it's not going to be terribly effective. Or if you're trying to build account plans in PowerPoint, which
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of times too,
Yeah.
that never works. Um, so yeah, but I think knowing the value of the account, um, if you're a CRO, or if you're serving a CRO or a CMO or CEO, and you're trying to make decisions about where you apply growth resources, where you apply investments, the easy answer is new logos, right? Because new logos are sexy. New
This is the
logos,
thing, right? They're
right?
exciting.
Yeah, well,
But
yeah. I mean that's
it's like a psychological thing around new logos. It's like, oh, we just landed that new logo. Like nobody's
right.
celebrating. Oh, we just, you know,
Doubled
had
our
a 12
business
month renewal.
yeah,
Like that should be celebrated as well, though.
yeah, renewals and growth. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean
Renew-
renewals are by themselves are are critically important, but they're not. Um, they should be part of how we've designed our business,
Yeah.
right? It shouldn't be a win as much as an expectation,
Yeah.
because we've created a great customer experience, including marketing involved in that customer experience, but a customer experience that leads to regular retention.
Yeah.
And our product set, that's partly defined by our product set too. Like, does our product set warrant retention? Does it continue to add value on a consistent basis year over year over year?
Yeah.
And and so, but for growth, yeah, I mean, we're working with one company that could triple their revenue. They're a $25 million business. They could triple their revenue without selling another new logo.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and yet before we got there, all of the go-to-market resources were focused on new logo.
Yeah.
And they had no way to measure what our white space is. How would we go about getting it? How do we start having those conversations with customers? How do we take that customer from implementation? How do we intentionally take them from implementation into turning them into a reference account? So we can't upsell, we can't cross sell until we first deliver, second add value, right? Create value,
Yeah.
however we create value, however that customer creates value. Once we create value and it's measurable and we've made a fan of that first buyer, now we're talking about, okay, how do we then expand? And marketing ideally has a role in that and in fact is leading a big part of that whole conversation, or that whole process, because there's content that is important at each stage.
Yeah.
There's engagement that happens that it doesn't just happen in customer success. If it's limited to customer success, chances are it's going to be one-off, it's going to be ad hoc. You're going to have good customer success people that customers love, and you're going to have ones that are okay. And and you're going to see that you don't have a consistent and the temptation is to say, well, I gotta fire that one and get another one of them, instead of let's replicate this as a capability of the company, and institutionalize it, if you will.
Yeah.
And then teach our customer success people what their role is in that, but also teach marketing and sales and whoever else is going to be involved, including our executives.
Yeah.
Because our executives should hold a role in that as well.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll just speak from the marketer's angle a little bit.
Yeah.
In this, because
Rant. Go for it.
It's crazy to me how much marketing stops when the lead becomes a customer. Like, I have been told in previous companies, like running different advertising campaigns. Well, exclude customers from that. You know, we
Right.
don't want customers to see that message, even though the message might be about like a product feature or something that maybe they're not aware of. We don't know. We haven't mapped them out. We don't know what features they're using or what criteria they actually have in their subscription, etc. But we're just not marketing to them. And what I think I think there is a mindset and a measurement issue though in most businesses which cause this friction, because marketers are almost all measured on how many leads they get, how much pipeline they generate, and in some cases, how much pipeline closes.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been in a marketing org that is measured or has a goal on expansion. Well, until Blend, of course. Well, actually, at Blend, I don't even think we don't really have a like marketing objective. It's a business objective, like
Mm-hmm.
of revenue and profit ultimately. And you know that makes it easier to divert budget into expansion, into the areas that are going to generate the best revenue and profit for the business, because it doesn't matter where that comes from, as long as it is positive for the business. That's all that matters. But I think so many marketers are trapped in net new logo acquisition because that's just how they're measured.
Is it just that's how they're measured, or is it a trust issue? I would suggest to you that it's as much a trust issue as it is a metrics issue. And I think like it's easy for us in marketing to say, woe is me, nobody trusts me. But have we done the work to come to the head of customer success, for example, and say, hey, look, I see what's, I've sat with your team members. I see what's happening with our customers. I think we can improve some things here, and
Mm-hmm.
here. And let me show you what I mean by that and why it'll be effective.
Mm.
And here are the outcomes that it'll help drive, and it'll make your people more efficient because they'll now have, they don't have to try to deliver messages that they're really not equipped to do. And we're delivering very clear, bespoke. You think about marketing to an existing customer. If you're sending the same message that you're sending to a new logo, even about a particular feature, it might be the right message, but you're still missing the opportunity for personalization
Yeah.
that you have no right to miss,
Yeah.
right? It's an existing
Absolutely.
customer. You know so much more about them. It should be a highly personalized message. Automated, sure, fine. But let's build the system so that we're sending what feels like a really authentic message. And we can do that because we have so much more data about them, or we should.
Yeah.
Right? If the customer success leader sees that, says, hey, I want to send this message to this person at company Acme, and you show them that you can create a really warm, positive, encouraging, not salesy message. Like usually that's what the customer
Mm-hmm.
success manager wants, right? They think you're going to send a commercial. And if you can show them,
Yeah.
we're not sending a commercial. We're helping them be more successful with the products they have. And we're introducing them to the idea that there may be additional value that would help them specifically be able to, succeed in their careers or what have you. I think that's not happening in many, many cases.
Yeah.
And so it's both sides, right?
And I think it's that proactivity though that doesn't get
Mm-hmm.
done.
Right.
It's marketing when you come into a business. Here's what you measured on.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you need to achieve. And so often expansion isn't part of that. So
Mm-hmm.
it requires you to go out of your way to find out how you can grow expansion of the customer base.
Well, I mean, the first thing I would do if I was a new marketing lead, CMO or whatever they call them, because marketing leads get called all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But if I'm responsible for marketing, first, maybe not the very first thing, but very soon when I come into that, I'm absolutely driving towards what does it cost us to acquire a new customer? What is our gross retention rate? How
Yeah.
much are we losing out of our bucket every year? What is our current net retention rate? How successful are we at expanding? And what is our total, even estimated, total potential value of our customer base versus what we have today.
Yeah.
And I would, for any mid-sized company that's, that's got more than one product or service, it's got, uh, it's got pretty broad applicability. It's not tiny, tiny niche. Then chances are they're going to have at least 2, 3x revenue opportunity inside the existing base. And that's the conversation I would have with the CEO out of the gate. Like,
Yeah.
here's how our business looks today. Here are the numbers. Here's what it costs us to go get new, we're losing 8% of our customers a year. Okay, well, that means that the average customer is going to be with us for 12 years, right?
Yeah.
So that feels pretty good. But you do the math on, if I could cut that to 4%, how much revenue we retain and what the cost of replacing that revenue is via, your current CAC for new logos. That is an easy calculation. Usually people get that one pretty quick, but then understanding what the total opportunity cost is of losing a customer, how much more you're not going to grow that one customer, how much more their impact, if they were a happy customer and they were growing, is, the revenue growth plus the social value of that customer, and, whatever the other attributes are that you want to attribute to the value of that particular customer. Being able to model that into, here's the true cost of losing someone, that then gives you the ability to say, hey, look, 40% of my budget needs to go into
This is it.
retention, and here's how I'm going to go spend that, and I'm going to partner with these different groups, and we're going to bring in tools to allow us to really truly model, so that you at the CEO, CFO, board level can really look at the numbers and say, we have a $50 million business that, if we never close another new logo, has a potential of being 150 million. And if our NRR is 110%, so we're adding 10% revenue every year to the existing base. You think about that. That means that $50 million business goes to 55, goes to 60.5, goes to, I'm not going to keep doing the math in my head. It would take you forever to get to that 150, right? Maybe we need to, drive more investment into that, because it's certainly faster to expand business with an existing customer. It's usually, a whole lot less paperwork, and so sales cycles are shorter, CAC is less for those deals. Can we show that, maybe the right answer is 70% of the budget should be going into expansion of existing, right? But the numbers will prove that.
Yeah.
That should be a key initial strategy session with the CRO, the CEO, the CFO, to decide where are we going to put so that, when you're not being told you need this many leads, you need this many for new logos. Like, I say, why?
Yeah.
That's not how we're going to get to, especially in a PE owned company, because venture backed, adoption is probably the number one success metric, and CAC almost doesn't matter until you get into later stages and you're just trying to drive. But once you're in a PE, efficiency is everything. Driving consistent growth, predictable growth, and highly efficient growth. You don't have to own every single logo. You do have to see consistent revenue growth that is delivering EBITDA at an increasing level. And you want to be a rule of 40, rule of 50 company. Well, this is a better way to do that. I mean, it just is for most organizations, or for an awful lot of organizations.
Yeah. I just want to interrupt the show to bring you another podcast on HubSpot's podcast network called Marketing School. If you need practical marketing strategies that actually work, Marketing School from the HubSpot podcast network is essential listening. Hosts, as you'll know, Neil Patel and Eric Sue give you daily 10 to 15 minute episodes packed with actionable tactics from their own marketing experience, building and scaling multiple companies. In their recent episode on AI in marketing, they explain why your customers can switch AI tools faster than you think and how that changes the way you need to position and market your own products. Not your typical episode you'd expect, but packed with insights and unexpected learnings that you can take into your own business. There's daily insights, real results. Listen to Marketing School wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably doing what every other B2B marketer is doing, asking, how do I get my brand cited in ChatGPT? How do I show up in Gemini, Perplexity, Claude? And at Blend, we help you do exactly that. We engineer visibility in AI search for B2B companies. We build the content, implement the technical optimization, and track your performance across every major AI platform. So when buyers are researching solutions like yours, your brand gets recommended. We know how to engineer visibility in AI search because we built a framework and proved it on ourselves first. And this took months of experimentation, but in the end it delivered 470 high-value prompt appearances, 80% citation rate across prompts, and 250% more AI-sourced leads. We proved the framework, and now we're starting to roll it out across customers who are seeing similar results. So, if you want to dominate AI search in your category, visit blendb2b.com to learn more about our AI search services. I'm just thinking back to previous conversations we've had on the podcast as you were talking through them, and how taking that kind of approach gives you so much more credibility, within the team, from the C-suite, from the CEO, the board. If you're actually taking that kind of lens to say, I know in the past we've measured marketing like this, you've looked at it through this lens, but actually when I look at expansion opportunity, when I look at our NRR and how we're performing, actually we should be deploying 50% of our budget into customer marketing. And right now it's zero potentially. Actually, in a lot of cases it is zero, sadly. So
what are the things? So if I said to you, okay, Dan, we want to focus. We have this wallet share challenge in our business, and we've got several products, several services that we could sell across our customer base. And I said, okay, so you've made the case 50%, just what you just said, 50% of our growth budget, of our marketing budget, or whatever, let's say marketing budget for now, should go into expansion, cross-sell, upsell, and retention.
Mm-hmm.
How would you use it? What would you do? What would be your strategy?
Well, I think it comes back to the principle of any marketing, right? Which is to understand your audience first, whether that's somebody that you are totally unaware of, your ICP, you're marketing to a completely cold audience. You still have to understand them deeply, what they care about, etc. That's no different to marketing to customers. You just have the advantage of knowing a hell of a lot more about them. Mm-hmm. So the message that you create for them, the content you create for them can all be very, very specific. So I think the first thing to do is to arm customer success who are on the ground with your customers day after day with the right content, the right messaging, the right assets they need to do their job effectively. I think when we think about actually expansion across accounts, once you've identified that account strategy and you know the areas for improvement, there are a few different approaches to take, right? I think one is establishing your message broadly in channels those customers are already using, whether that be via email, via social, via live events, any way you can distribute a message that's still segmented to them, but that they're just going to see organically and build up mental availability of, oh, okay, that product, that thing can actually do more for us. It's not you proactively sharing that insight with them on a conversational level. It's purely just like feeding it into their brain. When we think about what's going to actually drive growth, it's having conversations with the
Mhm.
right people in the business. And I don't think there are many better ways than actually getting those people in a room together when it
Mm.
comes to customer events, events with customers slash prospects, having the conversation with your existing customer, getting them to bring along their buddy from, whatever division you want to sell to, being able to speak to them together in the
So,
right way.
so what if the buddy, as you call it, is their boss's boss?
Hmm.
So what if the key to selling a broader set of products or services is uh, getting to, it requires a lot of times when we want to sell things, it requires uh, policy change or a willingness to do
Yeah.
things different in an organization. And oftentimes that's held very, very senior. And yet, procurement organizations are going and trying to solve for things that they know they need, right?
Yeah.
So they've bought something from you because they know they need it. But now you've got a dozen other things that you could be offering that company, and it's in your white space calculation, but it would change and they don't perceive that to be a problem. You
Yeah.
need to at the procurement level, right? The maybe mid level professional, or maybe they do perceive it to be a problem, but they don't have the power or the appetite to try to solve it. And so you need to get to people that are higher in the organization. How can marketing help that process rather than just tell the customer success team, hey, can you get me a meeting with the VP's VP?
Yeah. It's funding it in one way. Like
Right.
marketing have usually one of the biggest budgets available to them in a business when it comes to acquisition or expansion, if you want to use it in that way. I will flip this back on you in a sec because I'm interested to know your answer to this. But you mentioned then understanding why they should care, like why their boss's boss should care about this thing is the most important thing, right? If a team in their organization has just bought a new tool, they probably don't even know that they've got this new tool, like
Mm-hmm.
because they don't care. Like as long as that thing is getting done and it's efficient, like they don't really care what software is being used to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to get down to the root of why they should care that this is a bigger thing. So the message ultimately needs to change. I think marketing can be used to fund um, events and dinners and even like corporate gifting to a certain extent
Mm-hmm.
to these people. I was actually at an event on Wednesday where Reach Desk, which is a corporate gifting platform, did a talk around ABM, which is quite like timely thinking about this because um, they were talking about account strategies and how like gifting has become this huge thing. But most gifts just fall completely flat because you're not gifting to the right person with the right message at the right time. It's just a kind of like blanket thing. But if you know, and this is, quite a niche example, but if you're a sales director, but the CRO is actually the one holding the purse strings who's going to unlock a load of opportunity for you. Well, if they're a huge, baseball fan, perhaps, and you know that, well, how do you lean into that? Can you take them to a baseball game? Can you send them a baseball gift initially that invites them, to the game with you? And I suppose it's getting creative about how you unlock those conversations because they are really hard to access at times,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to get creative about the way you do it, and you have to stand out from the 10,000 other things they have going on, and ultimately the hundreds of other vendors they have trying to do this exact thing with them.
Yeah. 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 Gifting's a whole, like, that's a rabbit hole because, like, I can't tell you how many times lately I've been told that uh, the organization's not, like, they can't. One of our clients we're helping from a overall go-to-market strategy. We were just talking about one deal they're selling right now. They went and visited, and they were on site with the customer. They went to the cafe, and they weren't allowed to buy
Yeah.
the limit was $5.
Mm-hmm.
They could buy them a $5 banana.
Yeah, bribery policies. Yeah.
And so like there it depends on your industry where programs like that matter. But I think you said a couple of interesting things that uh, I'll allow you to turn it back to me and expand it maybe a little bit. I think marketing can help in first creating the framework and the structure that like customer success isn't inherently going to build out a CRM that effectively models people that they don't talk to.
Mm.
That's not in their DNA. It's not in salespeople's DNA. It should be in marketing's DNA. Marketing should be the organization that says, I have to know everything about the customer we have and the customer we don't have, or the parts of the customer we don't have, right? And so building out and defining systems so that you would have a place to capture that information. And then second, creating processes and mechanisms for capturing that information. Some of that might be specific questions you want customer success to ask, on a recorded line, right? So, we're on a call with a client and we're recording it, and you just ask them, hey, by the way, find out who their boss is. Just one name.
Mm.
Bring it up in the conversation somewhere. We'll capture it. You don't have to do anything. We'll capture it with the call recorder, and we'll grab it out of there using AI, and we'll push it into the CRM exactly where it belongs. And now we've started to build out the organization beyond what we knew.
Yeah.
That's a minor example, but like that kind of thought on how we're going to capture, where we're going to get that information. Now we can go and enhance that record and understand everything about that person and or at least a lot of stuff about that person. To your point, understand what motivates them and those kinds of things. We can then start to execute those types of enablement programs driven by marketing, but through customer success, through implementations, customer service, whatever organization is touching that customer on a day-to-day basis. So I think that becomes an important part of a marketing team's purview. Is the CRM to me should be broader than what they often are.
Yeah. It's the data model that goes behind it. Like when it comes to the account strategy, that shouldn't just be a document, like a Word document that lives in, SharePoint that's touched once when you're creating it. Like the account strategy is in the CRM.
Right.
The account strategy is a dashboard view of all of your customers, their associations, like between entities and even associations between contacts to actually know, who their boss is, and how you actually draw that information and have that constantly updating via workflows that are listening to call recordings and then pushing data into the CRM to update new motivations for them or new boss that's come on board. But then you might also have that information from something like Zoom Info that's just like basically forming all of this data together to give you the best comprehensive understanding of that account, because most of the time it's all there, but all that information right now about the account is just unstructured data,
right,
that nobody sees, nobody knows. And of course here we're talking about software like Ask Elephant, like alternatives out there that allow you to capture unstructured data from call recordings, from emails, from like loads of different sources, and actually structure that into the CRM, into push that data wherever you want, basically, to give you a more comprehensive understanding of that account, which then allows you to move on to how you enable them.
Right. And create actions or actionable, not just actionable. We create the best cases are when we create actual actions, right?
Yeah.
When something happens on a call, we capture it and then we do this. We don't just make it visible. We actually do it.
Yeah.
We put a Slack message into the VP of customer success because there's a risk to retention, right? And it flags him immediately and says, okay, I've got a problem with this account. and here's the context, and it prompts them to reach out to that customer 5 minutes after that call ended. Those kinds of experiences change the customer experience and create create more loyal customers. But I think then marketing's ability to maintain that stack, to make sure that they're getting they're enabling the downstream teams, but then they're also using that to then show that CEO, the executive team, if the CEO doesn't see, here's my pipeline for new logos, here's my pipeline for existing growth and expansion, maybe across products, and they've just launched a new product, they want to have a separate pipeline for that, whatever. But if they don't have very quick access constantly in front of them to see what's happening in the existing base, and to not just what is happening, but what could be happening, right? Always framed in the context of, here is our entire white space within our existing base. And then here's how we're 4% into it. We're 6% into it. We're 8%, like being able to track that progress over time is what, if I was the CEO of that organization, I think I would want to see.
Yeah. Well, I think we've spoken about this on a previous episode, or I have with somebody at some point, which is why marketing is so perfectly placed for this level of, like systems implementation and like just organizing the whole thing, because marketing touch the entire customer lifecycle.
It should.
It's not, well, they should. They can, ultimately. Whereas if this is just in the hands of, sales or customer success or an external team like your IT team that don't really understand the full customer life cycle, well, how do they know to use the insights from what you're orchestrating for customer success and feed that into net new logo acquisition? Like, because everything is just this entire loop that feeds buyer insights that not only help you acquire new logos, but can help you expand, and vice versa. How does the insight from your customers help you market to new customers? Like, that's why marketing is so well positioned to do this thing.
I agree 100%.
Good.
So how does that change I didn't prep you for this. How does that change your perspective when it comes to what we do here? Specifically, this.
Yeah.
We're within weeks of announcing some very significant new products, services available to our customers. As you think about this conversation, what does that mean for what we're doing here? Let's make it personal.
Interesting. I think the first thing, for us, right, it is very exciting. Like, it's a really, really exciting time at Blend, and this is a huge product that's going to help a lot of businesses. But I think first we have the potential to look inside at our existing customer base. This product is currently just being used by us, being built by us, with our customers and our future customers in mind, of course. But I think the first thing to do is to actually think about how we can deploy it for a handful of existing customers and build up that, social proof, the credibility from them that this really works. Because if we get them on board, it's a lot easier then to share it with all of our existing customers rather than just that handful. And then they are our new advocates of this product.
So what does that change in terms of what you need out of our CRM?
Got ya.
Right? We're a HubSpot customer. We obviously we use it constantly. But what are the changes we need to make if we were to, and if this thought experiment right now doesn't work, we'll just cut off this section.
On the fly.
I think it's a great case study for our users to think, okay, how do we think about it in our own business so that they can think about it in their own business?
Okay, well, I've got something in mind, right? So in our HubSpot account, I'm just thinking of one customer in particular at this
Great.
point in time.
Perfect.
So right now we sell to their marketing team,
Hmm.
just their marketing team. So
Yep.
we actually in our CRM in the contact section in HubSpot, we don't have their sales team, their customer success team, which this product will help, by the way. So right now they don't exist as people. As far as I'm aware, when I look at the data, we don't know who they are. Now it's very quick and easy to understand who they are from something like Zoom Info, which we use. It's an initial data point at least to get them into our CRM and create associations between contacts to understand like the org structure basically and who reports into who. So I think step one is to actually identify the people that we want to sell to in that. From there, well, there's a few ways to actually map out how your product is being used across the company. Like you can actually have properties based on product usage and just select which products they're using right now. You can use product line items to actually bring in what they're using. That's probably the best way because you can report on products quite easily and then see the gaps in there as well. I'm just, well, yeah. And then like, you know, we use Ask Elephant at the moment to actually draw insights from customer success calls, sales calls with them. So I think I would start using those insights to feed into the CRM, even if it's just creating notes of information that's important about that account at a company level. Here is, you know, something interesting happening at this company next year. Like, oh, they've just bought this other company or they're rolling out this new product. All of this information is going to be really, really important down the line to understand how that product best fits with their business and where they're going. Because it might be that the product we're trying to sell to them offers something very different in 6 months' time when they change their business.
All right. So
I don't know.
So I'm gonna give you some. I agree with. I think everything you said was accurate. In addition, if we're a few weeks, months away from going wide with with these new offerings, and we know that for some of them, we're going to need or want conversations with marketing leads, but also not marketing leads, but also other people in the organization. What can marketing do to soften the beachhead, right? To even now start, like there's subtle things. You don't have to be sending direct emails to the CEO of the company saying, "Hey, we work with your marketing team, but you don't know us." And like that's like a blunt instrument.
Yeah.
But there are clever ways to start getting logo and brand and broad value prop messaging or broad challenge messaging, problem messaging in front of an expanded set of executives that marketing could be doing now, even ahead of that launch, right? Building out the CRM to so that we know how many of my current customers do I know? Do I already have a relationship with these other positions?
Yeah.
Versus how many do I not even know who they are, right? And so that it starts to create transparency to our effectiveness in understanding who that that broader customer.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking we can and should be doing even now, and maybe we are. I haven't asked you about that, but I think that's the kind of proactiveness that we want our listeners to think about as they're having the same conversations internally about why don't, when the CEO asks, why do only 20% of our customers use this new product? Why isn't it 60 or 80 or, how do we get there? Marketing should already be well ahead of that.
Yeah. Marketing is a game of mental availability, whether that's for new customers or existing customers. As humans, we only have so much of mental availability to us. And that is,
You have more than most, though, so I hold you to a higher standard.
but that is built up and formed over exposure to information,
Hmm.
exposure to um,
No, that's a really good
images
point.
and content.
It's a really good point.
And you, as a marketing team, have the opportunity to influence mental availability, whether
Hmm.
that is for new customers or existing customers. And like you say there, like just increasing mental availability of your brand to those new execs that you want to go and sell to, make that outreach maybe from the customer success team or maybe even your CEO a
Hmm.
lot more easy for them to engage with, because it's like, oh yeah, I've heard of them, I've seen your stuff, actually that's quite cool, we're already using your product, aren't we? So like, yeah, okay, I'll give you 30 minutes of my time.
Right.
That's the same as if you were going outbound to a new company.
Hmm.
If they are aware of your brand, if they have built up mental availability of your product over time, they're more likely to engage. And it's no different on the reverse side here.
That's right. That's where I was hoping you'd go.
That was a good clip actually, because I started with the right note.
So for any of our existing customers, Dan should not be emailing your CEO.
Yeah, don't tell Josh if I do, because I might.
All right. What else would you like to talk about today?
Well, we're almost at time, right? So I know you like to leave us with some facts.
Okay. Top three things from this episode, in my opinion. Marketers should absolutely demand and build and earn the right to be collaborative with sales, customer success, implementations, the entire customer journey,
Mm,
and be in the middle of all of the communications. Uh, Number two, if we don't effectively calculate the total white space of our existing base, the total potential of our existing base, we are we we're we're handicapped. We've got we can't operate an effective go-to-market and an optimized go-to-market,
yeah.
and so that becomes absolutely critical to being able to design a strategy, a go-to-market strategy that actually is going to be optimized for your particular company. And then three, the systems. If you're in a business where you could sell multiple things to multiple parts of a particular company, you have a challenge in designing your CRM to be a really good account planning tool that is mapping all the people you know and all the people you don't, the roles that you need to get to, the opinions, or like you know, this person's a blocker, this person's a
Yeah.
fan, this person, like the relationships we have with different
Yeah.
parts of the organization that we do know, um, and then the strategies and like so that whole account planning process, most organizations don't want to invest in, but in my experience is maybe the single greatest investment to driving long-term uh, growth
Hmm.
for that revenue growth, and maximizing. I mean, we did it at one company where I was the CRO, and we got to where we were at 120, I don't know, 122% NRR and 99.7% gross revenue retention, and that was because we did the hard work of figuring out how to model
Yeah.
those customers, and then we had processes and systems to be able to do that. The back then though, there weren't all of the amazing tools that are available today, so it was a whole lot more manual effort. Now there's there are tool sets that make doing this um, really feasible and scalable, and that's a teaser for the next podcast that I'm
Yes.
going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
on,
You're right.
where we're super excited to be talking about some of the AI capabilities, how to breathe AI, like how to think about breathing AI into your go-to-market in a way that touches everything from first touch through the entire customer journey. And that's what
Yeah, really excited for
I'll
that
leave
one.
that.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Demand Decoded, and as Josh says, we will catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Before you go, if all you can think about right now is AI search and how buyers are using it to find products in your category, we should talk. At Blend, we've built a proven framework for answer engine optimization. We tested it on ourselves first and saw 470 high-value prompt appearances, 80% citation rate, and a whopping 250% increase in AI source leads. That's real high-intent leads who are finding us through AI search. We've since rolled it out to dozens of clients who are now seeing similar results. Our AI service engineers your visibility in ChatGPT, Perplexity, AI mode, Gemini through structured content, schema markup, and continuous optimization, and measurement through our partner Scrunch. If you want to show up when your buyers are asking AI tools for recommendations in your category, find out more about our AEO services at blendb2b.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.